Hello, kia ora. How are you? Are you having a wonderful day? Who got caught out by daylight savings? Am I the only one that's going to put my hand up? I was supposed to remind you guys last night, but of course forgot all about it and did not think of it again. So this morning, thank goodness for phones and devices that automatically change the time. But it wasn't until halfway through the day that I wandered into the kitchen, and of course the clock on the wall and the clock on the stove hadn't changed. And I went, oh, hang on, daylight savings. But it's lovely to see you all here. What kind of day have you had? Busy? Every day's a busy day when you've got family, isn't it? Now, I don't know if you can see, but I have a little friend that has joined me tonight. I don't know how long he's going to stay here, but this wee chap here on my lap, it's hard to see on my blue jeans and my black shirt, is a wee foster kitten. We've been fostering him since the first week of lockdown, and he is just gorgeous. He is a kitten, so he is a rat bag, but he is gorgeous as well. And we're looking after him for a little while until he finds his forever home. The original time that we would normally have him for would be about 3 or 4 weeks. It's a bit longer than that, and we're not complaining. He's just gorgeous. But I thought I may as well mention it because at some stage during the reading, he may very well get up and decide that he wants to play. We'll have to extract him then because his teeth and his claws are rather sharp. But yes. Sunday. Time for a few more chapters of The Unflinching Ash by Angela Armstrong. Yay, it's a good story, isn't it? Have you had a chance to see the other chapters? Maybe you've joined me. And if not, you can check them out on YouTube or scroll back through the feed and you'll find it there. But it's been such a good read. A little bit of a mouthful at times with all the oldie-worldy words and things like that. But Angela's done a wonderful job. Just a reminder, it's not a kid's book this time round. It is, in fact, a lyrical young adult novel. So yes, quite different. And a few more adult kind of themes and topics and so on. A little bit of flirting. And in the coming chapters, maybe a little bit of violence. Yes, there's an argy-bargy in the tavern. I'll just warn you about that. But yeah, nothing too untoward. A good story. Now, we did find out about Wren. Remember? The stranger across the tavern who took off with the coin purse and then gave it back before he disappeared, back to Ash. Unflinching Ash. And we found out how Unflinching Ash got her name. If you didn't see it, I won't go into that now. You can go back and watch it later, okay? Shall we have a quick hello? And then, I better announce the winner of the paperback from last night. So a quick hello first. Who can we say hello to? We can say hello to Charles, who reckons he was first here again. Awesome. Oh, hello, Trish. And Caitlin. Hello, Amanda. And Isabel. Hello, April. Hello, Celeste. And yep, I think that's all there at the moment. Oh, hello, Kelly, sometimes known as Jane. And a quick look to Instagram. Who have we got here tonight? We have, have I worked out how to do it? I might not be able to say hello to you tonight. The phone's playing up. Never mind. I'm sure you know that I'm thinking of you and hope you've had a wonderful day. Now, the winner of our paperback from last night. Angela is going to sign it and send it to, I better check and see who it was, Hannah Arnold. Yes, Hannah Arnold. Congratulations, Hannah. We are running another competition tonight, so if you haven't registered for or subscribed to Angela's newsletter, go and do that now. The website, angelaarmstrongbooks.com. Everybody who subscribes tonight or who subscribed last night or even one of the winners of the 20 ebooks will go into the draw for a signed paperback tonight, and we'll announce the winner at the end of our chapters this evening. And I tell you what, it's a good book. We've barely even touched it. But there's plenty more story to come. It'll be well worth having a copy of the book. And you can find it on Amazon as an ebook. You can find it on Trade Me, and apparently if you are mentioned that you're a Susie viewer, then you can get your delivery for free from Trade Me. So just search for Angela Armstrong or The Unflinching Ash, and you can find it in a lot of good bookstores. Now, apparently it has only just come out. It came out just before lockdown started. So Some of the stores have it, some of them might not have even unpacked it yet, and some stores will be still waiting for it to be delivered, but it is in stores throughout New Zealand. But enough jibber jabber. Let's sing and read. It's our time, kia ora talofa. It's our time, a special time of day. It's our time, just you and me together. With the pussycat, it's time to say hello, g'day, ke te pea koe. Are you ready? Well, let's begin. Oh, we're back at Wren. Now, we're not using numbered chapters. We are using named chapters. So we're back at a Wren chapter. And, are you right? Are you comfortable there? Okay. Just got to watch those teeth and those claws. But here we go. By the time Wren had reached an inn in Admarthor proper, he was considerably less short in Val, that's coin, though running short on cards. He had drunk hum at the bar, arranging his eye stones in a line before him. Most patrons slouched over their ales or bowls of fossils. Wren somehow achieved an aspect of pleasant rest at the same time as perfect posture. Bodies lurched, slouched, teetered and postured. Bodies talked. Wren was the circumspect listener. Many outlined their plans for an approaching festival called Dawn's Veil, which dance they'd offer which person, which veil they'd chosen this year, where they'd stand when the sun rose. Mildly interesting. Some spoke of a man who'd visited the wharfs that afternoon, a foreign mystic with flair. Better. That was Wren. Wren honed in on one conversation within a cluster by the fire to his right. Dawn's Veil's well enough, but it's Queen's Day that'll fill the sales this year. How so? A she-mystic. Isn't it always about a girl with you, Darlie? A harmless nudge. You'll have misheard or heard what you wished you'd heard. She'll be a minstrel. Corlin's sister went in as a minstrel 2 Queen's Days past. She hasn't shown this side of the lake, but word from the south is she's won favour in the western tract, and that she's good and fair. There he goes, spreading word of a pretty lass. The group laughed, goading Darlie. Let me finish, would you? She's not just any fair lass. I hear, and Darlie lowered his voice then, she's the spawn of Alexact and Pabla Lapresca. No, their daughter settled down on a farm or some such. There's another. Farm? Daughter. Oh. 2 in the group raised their tumblers for more hum. And what came of her naming? Ash the Unflinching. She's doomed. Aye. The group threw back more hum. So do you think I'd have a chance with her then? Darlie sounded hopeful. His friend's answering mirth was interrupted by a sudden dampening all round. Wren was not visibly altered for this change in the air, but within it his attentions sharpened. Without any introduction, Wren knew trouble had entered the establishment. On the edge of his vision he registered a portly kilbuck of a man. His forehead, small beard, arms and gut were his most prominent features. The man's hands sat propped on his hips. He dripped with haughty menace. Evening all. The man received no answer. The keeper of the inn stood as still as his patrons. 3 more men stalked in behind the first. The widest of the group held 2 sleek dogs by their collars. The dogs choked, their front legs making little contact with the floor. The first, the kilbuck, announced, I've come to renew my protection. A woman at Wren's left buried her face in her husband's sleeve. The kilbuck continued. The price has gone up. Dawn's Veil's approaching, you all understand. I have a family to veil after all. It will be 2 val per sin. The group did well to conceal their agitation at this news, but Wren did not miss the minute extension of the keeper's chin. The chin extension told of discontent, a veiled temper. 2 val for every sin unspoken, should the seeker ask how faithful you all have been. Wren began bagging his newly acquainted stones without a sound. He didn't want their paint getting chipped. The kilbuck held a purse open before a seated woman close to the door. For your sister. He blinked slowly in answer to the coins being dropped into it. Clink, Clink. "I was sorry to hear your daughter was taken to thrashing upon the ground," the Kilbuck said, moving to the next table. "But not to worry. Your shame will remain untold." He held the bag out, its mouth wide. Clink, clink. Some murmurs slipped from Darley's group by the fireplace. "Ah, Darley's here." The Kilbuck spoke across the room. "Spreading talk of she-mystics, I hear." "That'll be four, Val." "I told you," Darley hissed through his teeth to his neighbour. His fists clenched and unclenched. The Kilbuck approached Darley's group, leaving Wren's vision a moment before reappearing at his right by the fireplace. The purse presented again. Clink, 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 clink. Wren cricked his neck. The Kilbuck turned, following the sound, noticing Wren for the first time. The dog handler craned his neck, attempting to see who this man was at the bar. Both of them turned their attentions to Darley, who'd stood, chest inflated. "Double, Seeger?" "One Val was enough. Two is, well, I'll not say what I think it is. I will say this. It's not right. It's not right I pay double what all else are paying. Hang on. It's not right I pay double what all else are paying." Darley took a step forward. His mate clasped his shoulder in warning. Darley shook off the restraint. "That's the last time I give you any coin. I'll take my chances with the Seeker before I pay a ransom and call it protection." The Kilbuck, Seeger, forgot Wren and turned all of his body to face to Darley. Wren heard him tie the purse to his belt. Seeger answered, Now, Darley, I can see you're upset, but you're speaking That was when bedlam tore out. Glass smashed, a table overturned. Two men once seated now grappled with Seeger's men, while the dog hand visibly weighed whether he should release the hounds or guard the door. He took a step forward, uncertain, looking to Seeger. Darley drew a mallet. The Kilbuck absorbed a blow from it with his forearm. The back foot that braced him sent a shock through the floorboards. Wren finished drinking his his posture unchanged. The couple with the child earlier accused of some affliction began crawling through the legs of the fray, the wife emitting dull whimpers, her palms bleeding from the floor's debris. They stayed close to the wall, eyeing the doors and their escape. Wren tilted his head to the left. A tumbler sailed over his right shoulder. He returned to his former pose. A chair broke across the dog hand's head, splitting his scalp and sending a rivulet of blood down through his greasy hair before he hit the ground with concussive force. Wren retrieved his tanto, stabbed a piece of meat from a board behind the bar, and flung it long and level, out the door the marred pair slunk towards. The dogs bounded after the prize. Wren stood, then turned. He slid a chair out from one assailant's reach. He kicked a blade back to one from Darley's company. Seeger and Darley crushed against the bar in front of him. Wren stilled. Popular Darley thrust a blow beneath latecomer Seeger's ribs. Seeger crumpled, staggering back. Wren took another step towards the door, while Seeger advanced towards Darley again, behind him. The dogs were back, and licking the dog handler's face, confused when the downed handler took a blow that sent his form belly-sliding against the wall. The other two underlings were down and out of the fight. The ransom mob was down to one, Seeger. And Seeger became aware of this when he next broke apart from Darley. He weighed his options only briefly, then hurled over a collapsed fighter, whistled for the dogs, and bolted through the door and into the night. Wren made a move to follow, but stopped short of crossing the threshold. "That man Seeger forgot something," Wren announced. He turned and surveyed the motley victors, shirts torn, teeth bloodied, and at least one nose broken. The dog handler groaned into the wood floor. The keeper held a towel to his eye, a boot print stamped across his exposed cheek. He raised one wary eyebrow in question. Wren held Seeger's purse aloft, unleashing a dashing grin. "I believe this rightly belongs to all of you." He treaded heavily and precisely on the leg of an upset table beside him, righting it, then dropped the bag of coin on top. Darley spoke over a fat lip. Wait? How? Who are you? Darley's friend interrupted. Why didn't you take it? The keeper had asked. I will be showing tomorrow night. You can throw your coin then, if you think I've earned it. Wren made a small bow, and then he left. There you go. There's the argy-bargy in the tavern. Crikey. Now we're up to the next chapter, entitled Ash. The gulls were out in force. The location of the night's performance had been passed in hushed tones from Cooper to Fletcher to Blacksmith, until everyone who dared to brave the night for entertainment's sake knew of the designated hamlet for the mystics' gathering. The crowd was tight tonight, their breath forming a visible opaque cloud above their heads. Wynne took his place backstage guarding Ash's fourth exit, but Ash was merely Ash no longer. Ash, the Unflinching, now stood centre stage in garments of blue-grey. They fell fitted and simple around her frame, without hidden catchments or billows to conceal dirty moves. Her sleeves were tight at the forearm and finished before her wrist. Her hair lay untamed aside from a few small braids in its mass. Her shoulders were pulled back and her teeth shone. She was radiant, and no man or woman in attendance could look anywhere else. She spoke slowly. Welcome, discerning defendants of the mysteries. Before we begin, let's get to know some of you better. After all, without you, we would be without a show this night. She then watched them. She took inventory of the first twitch from the fisherman she could smell at 3 paces, the chewed cheek from the man with a full quiver on his back, more likely a boa than hunter, given his age and the clenched jaw. Of a candlemaker, Ash concluded, given away by the wax on her hem. A few others made moves worthy of consideration, but these 3 were the best. Do we have any fishermen amongst our number? Ash called, knowing the answer full well. She took in the same twitch in her peripheral glance. The man shifted his weight onto his other leg before slowly raising his hand. Please, sir, will you come forward? Ash's smile suggested the honour would be entirely hers, and the man followed its promise to the stage. Ash shook his hand with both of hers and indicated where he should stand. Now, you there. Ash extended her palm towards the boa. Bowyer? B-O-W-Y-E-R. Bowyer. Would you keep this fellow company here? The chap chewed his cheek briefly, then dipped his head before joining for handshakes and positioning. We are in need of a lady. Ash swept her arms open wide. She took in jagged exhales, clasping hands and bitten lips that almost pulled her from her course. The candlemaker's clenched jaw spoke louder. Please, would you join us? Ash's eyes were alight with playfulness, and the candlemaker of the waxy hem followed Ash's outstretched hand to the stage after only a brief squeeze of her husband's arm. Ash paced behind the 3 gulls. One of you bears a small sore. One you consider fair payment for your trade. The fisherman's brow wrinkled. The bower folded his arms, and the candlemaker, bless her, clenched her jaw. You, sir. Ash brought her head close to the bower. Given your experience in your craft, I imagine sores are unlikely and unreasonable. By your standards? The bower nodded and permitted a small smile. But you, Ash led, you've been stung, haven't you? Ash's frown of commiseration was for the candlemaker. Burned too, I'm sure, but no one talks about the stings, do they? The candlemaker's mouth opened slightly. Ash smiled as she took in the woman's kindly face and then her arms, always returning her gaze to her face. As Ash's eyes crossed the woman's left wrist, there came the woman's tell. Jaw clenched. A bee stung you here, if I'm not mistaken. Ash pointed to the spot that the woman had given away, then smiled at the crowd. The candlemaker's mouth opened in surprise. I doubt these gentlemen knew he had knowledge of bees for the noble's candles. Ash gave the candlemaker a tight smile and a wink of affection. The candlemaker relaxed. Ma'am, may we know your name? Ash placed her hand lightly on the woman's back. Maeve, Miss Ash, Maeve Chader. The candlemaker's voice was melodicous, and it escaped in a chirp that appeared to surprise even her. Maeve, have you a revolver? Maeve blanched. She knew she could not ask it of her. Ash knew she could not ask it of her. The fisherman had volunteered. Ash spoke to him next. And you, your name? Fisher, yeah? Terrell Fisher. Ash was pleased. She knew his accent hailed from the near east, and the name was given to babes who proved strong. Terrell Fisher would be her mark. She would confirm it first, and so she whistled. She saw Fisher's eye twitch minutely, before he twisted his head as though clearing it. She knew whistling was considered bad luck at sea for many. It seemed even on land the superstition was hard to break. Forgive me, Mr. Fisher. I didn't think the wind could harm us here, Ash said, knowing many sailors believed whistling a challenge to the wind itself, a storm's invitation. She had riled him some. Good. Mr. Fisher, how do you feel about revolvers? Fisher shrugged. Even better. She could work with a nervous eye twitch and a man who revealed his nerves but held no excitement to hold a gun. Ash placed her hand feather-light on Fisher's mantle, high on his back. Will you assist me this night? I can. The consonant N came out hard and decisive. Thank you, Maeve, and you, sir, for coming this night. You may return to your company. Ash ushered them back to their places below the stage. Defenders of the mysteries, our thanks. The dazzled crowd followed her lead in gracious applause. She turned to the remaining one of the three. Mr. Fisher, here is my revolver. Ash crossed the stage, collected the simple piece, then placed it in Fisher's hands. And here is its ammunition. She crossed the stage again and delivered the ordnance. How many chambers has it, Mr. Fisher? 6, ma'am. Thank you, Mr. Fisher. Please face your back to me. She then talked him through loading the gun with a single bullet, but iterated loud and avidly, Do not reveal to me which chamber you select, but be sure you note where it is. Fisher did as he was guided, following Ash's final invitation to turn back to face her. Thank you. Now you recall which chamber the bullet rests in? Fisher nodded, then twitched faintly. So you know now if it rests in the 1st, 4th, or say 6th position? Yes, ma'am. You need not worry at all. I'll pull the trigger. Perhaps more than once. Ash took the revolver and placed it to her temple. She faced the audience square. Fisher twitched twice. I'll ask that you count for me, Mr. Fisher. And would you step forward? Ash beckoned with a nod. May all untold share your will, Fisher whispered. After an encouraging nod from Ash, he began his count, folding his arms and hunching in on himself. 1. Ash pulled the trigger, to an eruption of gasps. 2. Fisher tightened his arms. Ash pulled the trigger. The gulls wheezed. 3. Fisher put his arm to his sides. Ash's finger squeezed slightly and pressed the gun hard into her skin. She inhaled through her teeth, taking the heartbeat this theatrical stunt availed to check her exits. She saw this stunt caused poor Maeve the candlemaker to wail and bury her face in her husband's sleeve. She made the right call, dismissing the sweet soul from the act. 4, Fisher pronounced. There it was. Ash saw Fisher's tail flicker at the corner of his eye. The twitch. And there's a little twitch too. Where are you off to? You right? Okay. She heard the subtle waver in his voice, albeit masked by calm. There, or 4, Mr. Fisher, I believe, is the chamber you selected this night. Ash lowered the revolver from her temple. She detected Fisher's first language and delivered her pronouncement in the same to drive her mentalism home. She continued, Maeve, will you witness as Mr. Fisher's checks my call? Maeve lifted her head and hiccuped a reply over the murmuring gathering. Oh, miss, you made me suffer. She gathered her skirts and returned to the stage. Ash passed the revolver to Fisher, who opened the cylinder for Maeve's inspection. Maeve's hand flew to her chest and her jaw clenched hard. She wailed her confirmation. "Aye, it's there!" The very next shot would have been her end. Maeve pulled at her lips and clenched and unclenched her jaw. She paused, then surprised Ash with a hug. Turning and ascending back into the crowd, she continued to buzz. I don't know how she knew it, but she did. She did. The gulls clapped cast coin and clasped shoulders in disbelief. Fisher shook Ash's hand, and she made a small bow of thanks. It was when she rose that she saw him. A man leaning against a fence post near the back, in shadows that seemed tranquil rather than menacing for harbouring him. He inclined his head, and an anchored torch lit his side smile. That maddening smile. Wren. She surrendered to the grin's pull and smiled back. Wren raised his hands higher, displaying his applause. A blush washed over Ash's face. She bowed and placed her hand to her chest. The warmth on her cheeks muted the applause. She was happy to see him there. Mysteries have mercy. And mysteries have mercy. May we have another chapter? Do you think we should? We need to find out what's happening next, don't we? We're not going to make it anywhere near through this book tonight, but we can go at least another chapter further, surely. Oh, okay, if I insist. Ash left the stage quickly, as was her custom, and took a roundabout route to a quiet jetty lakeside. There she'd met Wynne, who'd come with the thrown coin and profits from wages on the side. Most gulls who'd seen her show knew that no amount of cheers for more would bring her return, but they tried the routine all the same. She took that time to get away, a different jetty nominated after each show. Predictable habits could see a female mystic hanged. Ash did without them. Still, the revolver snug within her well-fitted show accoutrement gave some comfort, her blade even more. She'd retrieved her cloak from the weeping willow's lower limbs and wore it now over the unflinching Ash garb. Though Ash looked out across the water, she spoke to one approaching. "You best be Wynne, or I'll draw my weapon before your next step." In truth, she had already drawn the weapon and pointed it towards whoever drew near. Must our conversations always begin with concealments? Ash knew the voice, but it wasn't Wynne's. She smiled at the lake, then wiped the expression from her face before turning to face Wren. "You followed me." "You gave little choice, what with your habit of leaving without accepting of compliments and praise." "So I asked for this impropriety?" Ash squinted in distaste, then continued after mentally replaying Wren's words. "Wait, you come bearing compliments and praise?" Wren smiled but stood perfectly still. A nocturnal waterfowl broke the lake's surface nearby in a food-bound dive. Ash took Wren in. He wore the same dark winged vest, and the moonlight illuminated the way he filled it with dashing ease. His hair was almost lost to the night for being so truly dark. He was less a stranger for their meeting at Bess's Fry, but Ash could hear Greet speaking in her mind. Greet's her sister, remember? Begging her take caution. This Wren was very good, a call for caution on its own. Ash had not detected him until he was already on the jetty. There was also the small matter of her heart's leap upon sighting him by the fence line after her act. Her favourite of all tells thus far was how he looked up briefly before he spoke long sentences, drawing down vocabulary from memory, no doubt. He did it then spoke. "I will come no further. Impropriety is my last intention." He was still smiling, and the heart leap returned unbidden. "Well, not the very last intention, but I have bound and buried it deep." "Compliments and praise will work at this distance, I'd say." Ash spun to face Wren, cross-legged, holstering her gun beneath the cloak. It wasn't far away. "You did not flinch." "Is that the best you can do?" "It's hardly creative given my mystic's name." "You did not employ a shrill. You called upon a local. The local loaded the gun. You never tampered with it. You did not flinch. Getting better. I see now you're not an illusionist at all, but yes, you perform, and very well. Without meaning to, Wren had succeeded in paying her a fine compliment indeed, one she'd never been given. Her axe baffled gulls and pointed to the mystical and the mysterious most assuredly, but Wren, he could see there was no illusion in her performance, for Ash did not read minds. She read people. There was no illusion of risk there when in fact there was none, such as Banyan's face-off with a wax bullet when the real bullet betwixt his teeth. Wren looked up briefly, so Ash readied for verbosity. I hope he's having better luck with his words than I am. Wren looked up briefly, so Ash readied for verbosity. What, I wonder, is how you fail to flinch. I'm sure you watch their tells, but what of human error? Surely the risk of being wrong would give you cause to flinch sometime. Do you not allow for the possibility, however small, that you might one night read a mark wrong, that such a show might be your last? That's just it. I am perfectly ready for every show to be my last. Wren tipped his head sideways a moment. He made a study of Ash that managed to warm her in spite of the morbidity of their exchange. It was the fascination she saw in his gaze. She had encountered many who had eyed her with admiration. But this was for an answer she'd given, not her symmetry. She was grateful for the dark and for her hood veiled her and her hood veiled her appreciation of this novelty on her cheeks. That's why she doesn't flinch. She's not at all afraid, that one. Wynne called as he lumbered onto the jetty. You didn't draw a weapon on my approach, Wren, isn't it? Are you so sure of yourself? You do not allow that you might be robbed or caught unawares? I trust anyone coming to meet Ash is mysteries blessed, Wren answered without turning. He was still causing a commotion of colour on Ash's face with his gaze, though answering Wynne. Ash broke their eye gaze first, though it risked Wynne seeing she was flushed. He means to say he heard you a league away, Wynne. You jangle after every show, no matter how many times you tell. No matter how many times you tell me, I know. Wrap the coin in cloth before filling the purse. Sorry. Wynne finished Ash's sentence. He walked past Wren and took a seat next to Ash. Are you joining us then? He cast a call back to Wren. If Ash does not object. You know who's in charge around here, at least, I'll say that, Wynne answered. The jetty's not ours. I won't stop you, Ash said. Her blush was beginning to settle down with Wynne beside her, and she didn't want Wren to leave. That much she knew. Wren lowered himself in silence to sit next to Wynne. Ash abruptly spun to face the water and held out a hand for Wynne's purse. Wynne swivelled towards the water too, and Wren expertly manoeuvred with precision to follow suit. The three sat there, looking out across the lake. Wren and Ash, with Wynne between them. The bird Ash had heard earlier bobbed and left bubbles that caught in the moonlight. What I won't give you, Wynne picked at lichen encrusted on the jetty, crumbling and sprinkling it onto the lake's surface, is agreement anyone coming to meet Ash is mysteries blessed. We can tell you're not from around here, and so I'll remind you that not everyone honours a female mystic. So I hear. Well, the worst of them catch wind of Ash time and again and have very unsavoury plans, explained Wynne. And I'm always ready, Ash added. And she mostly meant it. She meant she was ready now. There had been a time when she had not been, a time when she'd underestimated the Basilia's distaste for women who did not look to their husband or father as their patriarch and the church for overall governance and direction. Good. The sincerity of that single word from Wren brought Ash back to the present. He was pleased to learn she was prepared, cautious. He did not see her strength and independence as something to be reined in. Refreshing. So what brings you to this jetty this night? Wynne picked again at the wood. Ash's wish to see Wren's face rose in equal measure to her relief she could not. She listened intently instead. No more proposals, I assure you, Wren answered. Ash sensed Wynne tensing momentarily at the term, then relaxed as he caught up. This had always been his loudest tell. The mysterious foreigner meant that there would be no more proposals he and Ash join acts. Not the sort of proposal Greet hoped would spare Ash the danger of continuing on with those acts. Sorry, Wyn, no development you can eagerly report to my narrow-minded elder sister. He came to shower me with praise, if you must know, Ash answered, having finished counting the coin. Wyn froze listening, before tying his purse back to his hip. He might notice it was lighter for Ash having taken most of her winnings, but as always he would find she had left a share for him and Greet. I did come with praise. Wren leaned his head out past Wyn slightly so he could see Ash, but news too. Ash resisted the urge to pull her head forward and look away, instead meeting Wren's eyes. They were dark in colour, but warm in feeling. What news? Wyn and Ash asked together. A warning. I thought myself to be your greatest threat to winning the Queen's Seal, Wren allowed Ash a brief scoff before continuing. Me and these people who would do you harm. I'm yet to see anything to substantiate this mighty claim of yours. Well, this was a lie. She had seen some indication Wren was good with his sleight of hand, and his uncanny stillness spoke threat to her gut. She realised she was leaning forward too, and noted Wyn had leaned back to allow his company a better line of sight. Wren continued, As I was saying, I worry there is more than me and more than them to worry about. Wyn's head pivoted back and forth between them. He now watched Ash for her response. Is that so? She said. Wyn's head turned back to watch Wren ask, Have you heard of the luminous collier? Wyn and Ash exchanged a look. Crikey. Wyn and Ash exchanged a look. We haven't, Ash answered. He is coming and he is good. Collier? Ash's tone was incredulous. The luminous, Wren replied. Good is fine. We could use some more good mystics around here. She knew that's what this collier's profession had to be, with a name like that. Good is not cause for concern. Wren's smile at Ash's proud reply did give her cause to pull her hood forward. Be that as it may, listen out for him. He has been working his way over from Ardmid Thor. I will be watching for him. His act is large. Large? Wren returned to the conversation. Excessive, Wren clarified. I had better be going. I have detained you both long enough already. Forgive me. Until we meet again. Ash? Wyn? Wren nodded very deliberately with each name. Ash took note he'd plucked and stored Wyn's name without being directly given it. She noted, too, Wren the Still, as she had begun to think of him, how he'd stood between her and one of her only 3 exit points, and she had not felt at all alarmed. And that was alarming. He was not gone long when Wyn asked, You worried about this collier fellow? No. You worried about this Wren? No. Well then, neither am I. Wyn rubbed his hands against the descending cold. How much was it then? Wyn reached for his purse, then patted at his other side. The whites of his eyes shone in the lake light. You're playing, Ash glowered. I'm not. It's gone again. Wyn was smiling with shock. He had to. That Wren was a smooth operator. Ash, of course, checked herself. Despite confidence Wren the Still could not have possibly managed, but he had. She found a second bag of coin beneath her cloak. One was her own, heavier for tonight's profits, but there was a second one as well. How? Beneath her cloak? No one had ever. He didn't. Wyn's eyes were wide. He leaned back and clapped. Oh, I know I should be worrying about his being improper, but all I can say is that you may just have met your match. Wyn belly laughed as Ash drew his bag of coin away from herself. Wyn laugh-spoke, egging her on. Check it. Go on. Ah, truly, it's a gift to see you trumped. Mind your tongue, or I'll be returning this minus tonight's share. Ash nudged her childhood friend. Trumped? Hardly. There was talk of a threat from this collier, and there's that bird bobbing incessantly. And it's dark. And you were busy making moon eyes. Ash let out an unceremonious sound. And? Wyn leaned towards Ash, and at an angle that would allow more light to fall on the bag of coin? Did he leave a note again? Where's your next date? Wynne was laughing again. No. What then? Cloth. He wrapped your coin in cloth, so it wouldn't jangle as you walked. Wynne's laugh now startled the bird into taking a short flight to be further from them. But he tied it to you, not me. Yes, Wynne. Because he wanted you to be sure he knew what he'd done. Wanted you to be sure he knew what he'd done and that he could. I suspect so. Irritation and admiration fought in Ash's chest. She bit her lip to realise admiration for winning. That man, he scarcely moves, but when he does, nobody knows it. Not even you. Wynne stopped laughing then, with an expression of borrowed caution reminiscent of his wife's. Wynne? Yeah? It's time we saw this wren put on a real show. For the first time ever, Ash felt invigorated at the prospect of some real competition. Competition, all right. This wren certainly is mysterious and very intriguing. And don't you want to find out more? Well, you'll have to get a copy of the book. Congratulations to that 20 who have a copy of the ebook. Congratulations to Hannah Arnold, who won last night's paperback. And let me just quickly check my email tonight and see winner number 2 is Isabel Coombs. Congratulations, Isabel. Angela will be in touch, and I'm sure she'll find out whose name you want signed in the front of your book. A book just like this. Now remember, you can head to Angela Armstrong's website, angelaarmstrongbooks.com. You can order a copy there. You can head to Trade Me, you can head to Amazon, you can head to Fishpond, you can head into your local bookstore. If you can't find it there, ask them to order one. It's worthwhile having a look. Actually, even order it at the local library so you can have it there. I'm just going to have a quick sip of water. Excuse me. Save my coughing for the end of the evening. And let me have a quick look and see what you thought. Did you think it was a good book? I certainly did. Beck said yes. April said thanks. This is awesome, said Mariner Girl. Wonderful. Hannah says, oh my goodness. Hi, Debbie. Oh, Isabel says, thank you. And Jane, lovely to have you here. Also Caitlin and Ella. That's great. And Bryce. Hey, how are you? Bryce, I'm really good, thanks. It's going to be a busy week, I must say. So I'm going to make it do for tonight. Sorry, my dear friends on Instagram. I wasn't able to find out what was going on here at all tonight. Let me see if I can have a quick look on here. If I search and go Susie. It's always handy using somebody else's phone, isn't it? Okay, Kendra, hello. And Ishuk and Chalk Danny, good evening. But that's the only ones I've got there so far, so that's okay. Hey, lovely to spend another evening with you all. Have a fantastic week, won't you? Congratulations to all those that won the book. And thanks for coping with my lack of teeth again tonight. Crazy. Hey, but before I go, snuggle down, pull those covers up close under your nose. Take a big, deep breath. Thank you, Angela, for writing such a wonderful book. And I will certainly be enjoying more. And I'll be in touch about another book for next weekend, okay? We'll see how this week goes. It's going to be incredibly busy with home learning TV and a couple of other projects. I'm getting worse as I go. See you later, it's time to say goodbye. See you later, I really got to fly. See you later, it's time for us to end. See you later, let's do this again. Good night, my friend. Bye. See you later. And good night.